What's up, everyone? I'm gonna talk in this video a little bit about longevity, why that's kind of the main outcome that you should be searching for. Everyone gets started kind of at different points as far as their fitness journey goes, but ultimately you want to develop a routine that you're going to want to stick to long term, because what typically happens to everyone is once they reach the 40, 50, 60s, and 70s, their body is just deteriorating slowly. And a lot of this has to do with just working all the time and being sedentary. Your body starts to conform to that sitting position. And over time, it takes a great deal of effort, depending how far gone you are. It takes a great deal of effort to get out of that or reverse it. So 80% of your training needs to be geared towards reversing these postures that slowly overtake everybody. So what are those? They're slowly, the shoulders hunch forward. When the shoulders roll forward, the hands also roll forward. So your pec minor and your bicep are super tight. So anytime you go to do a bench press, it's probably going to be more just front delt, straight up front delt, because you have no scapular activation. Then you go to do a pull-up and it's going to be all bicep, because you're not going to be able to activate your scapula, so your lats aren't going to properly contract. Your rib cage is flared, your hips are rolled forward, your toes are pointed out. So in 10 seconds, that's basically 90% of the problems that people deal with. And then when you go to lift weights or you put heavy load under an unsteady foundation, guess what's going to happen? In any of the joints, you're going to start to get problems. So it's basically like having a narrow river and having a big influx of water try to go through that narrow river. It's just not going to work. So as you get more rolled forward and your circulation and your typical movement patterns start to get cut off and shorter, you're going to have atrophy and issues that can ultimately turn into big injuries if you don't do anything about them long enough. So that can result in a pec tear, a bicep tear, pretty much anything has to deal with that. And if you're a runner and you don't deal with these things with immobile feet, ankles, knees, hips, you're going to get plantar fasciitis. You might develop stress fractures. You might just have achiness all the time in your knees. And when people come to me, it's typically kind of the last straw for them. They're like, all right, I've tried it my way and it hasn't worked, or I'm slowly leading myself into a sedentary lifestyle, or I either hate working out, the type of workouts that are promoted by mainstream fitness, or whatever it is. So my goal is just to always meet people where they're at. And fitness these days is rather arbitrary. It's just like, pick these movements, do them till you can't anymore, and that's supposed to get you to the result. But it's way more simple than that. Every single person has postures that they need to master, that they have to have a certain requisite level of strength to be able to hold their body's posture in the way that is the opposite of what I was talking about. So basically, the result of someone that ends up like this, which is basically the walker position that you see older people in, they have not been able to reverse out of that, so they're stuck in that posture the rest of their life. And some people are already like that by the age of 35, 40, but they're just able to compensate. And ultimately, that's what your body is doing. It is just compensating to try to reach its steady posture state. So if someone has bad posture, I instantly know that their strength level isn't at where it should be, at least in certain areas. And a lot of them get neglected. The adductors get neglected. The hip flexors get neglected. Any scapular movement gets neglected. Most people have no control over their scapula, and if your pelvis is rolled forward, your glutes aren't firing properly. If your glutes aren't firing properly, that means a lot more stress is getting kicked down to the knees and to the ankles. So what do people that are in this situation actually need to be doing? So you actually need to take it back to before you started weightlifting. So before you started weightlifting, you need to develop a foundation of body weight strength and movement, so you have a strong foundation that isn't going to break under a ton of external load. So ultimately, people use weightlifting and bodybuilding just for cosmetics, and that's kind of an issue in today's society, is that fitness is pretty much strictly focused on looking good. And that's okay because that gets 90% of people in the door. But what they don't tell you is that if you lift like everybody else, you are going to be out of the game like everybody else. Most people that lift like that do not lift that way past 40. And if they do, you're going to be that old guy, 50, 60-year-old at the gym who's doing short reps of everything, on all the machines like this the entire time, because their range of motion is atrophied so much that is really all they can do anymore. So if you can look down the line, see where the way you're training is leading you, that is what you're going to get. So there's not really any sense in doing that. So typically when people come to me, I have to reverse a ton of what they have been taught by mainstream fitness propaganda BS that just leaves you broke, disabled, and sedentary. That's really all it's going to do. You might look good, so did I, for a certain length of time doing that. I looked good externally. How my body functioned was actually terrible. I didn't have confidence that I could go into pickup basketball game or pretty much any movement that was unorthodox or unique. It would be very easy for me to get injured doing something like that. And I've seen that so many times. You take a bodybuilding guy or a powerlifting guy and you go have him do something active. Go box, go play basketball, go do this or that. They get hurt. Why? Because everybody is trapped in this linear plane, whether it's a machine or a barbell. And when you trap your joints that move every which way inside of linear movements, and that's all you ever do, you're going to slowly become a robot or a fridge. When everyone's in bodybuilding, they just walk around like this all day. That is because they are so bound up, they've lost their ability to twist, their spine can't expand or compress, they're just stuck in that brace position. So I pretty much took this as far as I could. The only reason I switched was because I wasn't able to do the same type of workouts that I was able to do before. So probably for a year and a half, 2 years, I would go into the gym trying to get back to where I was. And I'm like, I can't even feel my chest working. Even on a regular machine, my front delts and shoulders were so bound up that I couldn't even contract my muscles properly. And a lot of people are very unaware of, their mind-muscle connection in the first place. They'll go through hundreds and hundreds of reps, not even feeling the correct muscle working. So it's a net waste of time. So, new people, when they come to train, it's always how many reps, blah, blah, blah. And the honest answer is 5 reps where you can feel it, where you're carrying a good tempo and you're actually performing the movement correctly, is better than 100 where you can't feel it at all and you're doing nothing. So that is how you got to the place you're currently at, which is bound up, can't move, can't do what you want to do. Clearly it is not sustainable for the long term. So instead of trying to take a regular person and copying the body or the lifestyle of a bodybuilder rather, which, and 90% of the influencers on YouTube, Instagram, everything, they're all on steroids anyway. So they're trying to promote a way of training that is not congruent for the average person that has a family, works 40 hours a week, or whatever it is. They just push the drugs, they post their pictures, and then, they post these traditional bodybuilding style workouts. And that's just not my goal here on this channel. I think looking good is just a product of doing the work. I don't need to take 80% of my time and focus on looking good. I need to take 80% of my energy and focus that on what's going to make me move better, feel better. And the more you move and feel better, the more you're going to want to move. And the more work you put in, the better results that you are going to get, but they're actually going to be sustainable. So instead of kind of idolizing this like bodybuilder, powerlifter lifestyle, you need to do something that's more congruent for the results that you want in your life. So for me, that was a lot closer to the lifestyle of like a fighter or a boxer. Most of them are natural, arguably, you could go back and forth on that. However, the way that they train is way closer to how the average person should be training. And I would take it farther by saying they need to just continue to progress their body weight movements. So for the average person, you should focus on progressing your push-up, your row, your pull-up, your planche, your lever, your handstand hold, your muscle up. All of these things constantly lead to the next thing. And you can't fake body weight strength. You know, you can put a certain amount of weight on the bar, use momentum, you know, do all these things just to get the weight up. And like most people that do that, they can't even feel the proper muscles activating. If you can't feel the proper muscles activating, then that means that stress is getting taken to another joint. And over time, that is going to lead to injury. So instead of focusing on the bodybuilder powerlifting lifestyle, focus on building up your body weight strength, body weight mastery, getting your posture back, being able to run, jump, sprint, twist. All of these things are important for keeping you training longer. As soon as you stop jumping, stop running, stop sprinting, it's going to be very difficult to get back to that. It's going to take a lot of time and energy. And if you're willing to do that, then great. But the best way to go about it is to not let it happen in the first place. So don't do what I did. So that is the one positive thing. I've gone through all the injuries, all of these phases, and I can talk to people that hopefully are a little more open-minded than I was back then, because I didn't have someone to just spell it out for me. I had to go through just so many injuries to reach this conclusion. And it's just way more worth your time. And there is nothing that is going to be more beneficial than actually making sustainable progress. Take any bodybuilder, anyone that you know that lifts bodybuilding style all the time. Take it from the best, C-Bum. Now he has to go back and rebuild his body. He was a bodybuilder, but he was actually ripping down his functionality, and now he has to spend all of his time trying to rebuild his athleticism, because bodybuilding makes robots and fridges. Because you're not twisting, you're not bounding, you're not jumping, you're not sprinting, you're not doing any of these things that actually keep you athletic. So with all of that being said, that is kind of how you need to start changing up your training. And if you want more insight into how that actually goes, I do this for a living. All I do is help meet people where they are at. And once again, your body can't lie. People will come in and I'll see their rolled shoulders and I'll see their inability to even do a correct push-up, you know, and they want to be working on their bench press and stacking more load onto shoulders that don't even work. And it's pretty asinine. So then you will regress and they'll think of the push-up as like, oh, that's very easy. It's like, well, it is if you're doing it wrong and you're just trying to get mindless reps. It's a complete waste of time. I don't know where all these misconceptions even came from. But yes, you want to start to look at more of a fighter type style workout. What is the point of being lean, having muscle? If I ask you to run a mile and that's going to be just extremely difficult for you, you're not actually in good shape. You just look like you are. And that's kind of my problem with bodybuilding in general, is it doesn't lead to anything outside of the gym. There's nothing really outside of the gym that bodybuilding is going to help you with. So why wouldn't you just switch it up to something that is actually going to help you and stop idolizing people that are just completely on drugs anyway? It makes no sense.